So I'm assuming you clicked on the video, one, because you watched my stuff, and I greatly appreciate you guys watching all my stuff, like, commenting, sharing, subscribing to the channel. I appreciate every single one of you, and if you're just tuning in because you want to see how to LS swap one of these trucks, well, we're going to do that too. We're going to be dropping a 2003 5.3 liter out of a Chevy Silverado into a 1987 Chevy K30. It's a 4x4 1-ton pickup truck. Before you can get that motor ready to drop in, there's a few things you're going to have to know. You guys are looking to adapt your 4.8 or 5.3 LS to a stick shift transmission. Whether you're hooking it up to a Saginaw 4-speed, Muncie 4-speed, Borg Warner, Super T10, they're all pretty much the same. Between all those transmissions, the only things that are really going to change is the input shaft on the transmission. So the main thing, figure that out, get the clutch accordingly. This right here is a small block Chevy, big block Chevy, 11-inch clutch. What we're working with for a flywheel here, this is a Sachs NFW 1050 flywheel. You type that in, whether it's on eBay, Amazon, Google, Rock Auto, whatever you want to do. That flywheel will come up. It's factory from a Silverado. I've only used this on 4-speed vehicles, but apparently this is the same flywheel if you're going to do an NV 4500, NV 3500. I guess it's all the same. Small block Chevy, big block Chevy clutch. This happens to be an 11-inch clutch. The holes right here fit a standard size bolt. You open up those holes a little bit for the metric bolt, drill it out just enough for this bolt to go through. That way everything centers up perfectly fine. And that's it. This is very simple. Since this is from a Silverado, and this is a factory LS, which would have come in a Silverado, the starter, everything works. It's all the same. This motor thinks this is a Silverado. It has no idea that this is going to be going in a square body with an SM465 4-speed, or 3-speed if you really want to get technical. You can't see the pilot bearing inside. But I am running a pilot bearing. The pilot bearing I'm running is a sealed unit and it fits perfectly. I'm going to throw the part number up on the screen so you guys can see that. Running a sealed pilot bearing is going to be better long term. The flywheel installed, pilot bearing on, clutch installed, clutch plate all lined up, everything bolted down, torqued down. You're literally ready to go. So let's go take this, drop it in our square body and see how it fits. When you're in here and we're getting ready for this LS swap, make sure you check your motor mounts. This motor mount's absolutely whooped, and I'll tell you right now, it's a lot easier to replace that motor mount while the engine's out. Here's our new one right here. This is actually our motor mount out of the 79 Z28. Same exact motor mount. You're gonna have to use a 10-spline clutch. In my case, I'm using a Luck clutch, LUK, and I have great results with them. We're gonna have a remote oil filter, so that's gonna get relocated up onto the firewall. This is the pan I have, and it's gonna work. It's an 8-quart with a windage tray. It's way overkill for this motor, but I already have it, so let's toss it on. Our motor mounts. Motor mount right here is not for an 87 K30. It's actually for my 79 Z28. If you guys saw my last video, we took this 350 out of that square body, tossed it in this Camaro, got everything up and running. The 350 out of that K30 over there dropped right in place. The motor mounts, everything was exactly the same. Factory location, I didn't change a thing. That 5.3 over there was actually in this car. So I said to myself, I'm like, why am I gonna go out and buy special motor mounts? When I took this out of the square body, it bolts in the same place as the 5.3. So let's give it a shot. This is the SM465 bell housing. If you guys have a hydraulic clutch setup, you can see the slave cylinder right over there. The master is further up on the firewall. All right, so one thing that we learned, these motor mounts, there's no way you're gonna connect the transmission to the back of the motor, with that motor mount on. So that's for sure. Still haven't deemed that they're not gonna work, but it's just gonna be a little bit more of a project than I thought. So that's no big deal. I might just have to take these motor mounts. I might just have to take these metal motor mounts from the engine block side and then put them on after. So we'll get this slipped in place and then we'll kind of slip them in there. Alright guys, I want to show you one thing. If you're doing motors, transmission, stuff like that like me, right here, these snap-on sockets, I don't care what anybody says, they're the best. They're low profile, you can get right up in between the bottom of the cab or bottom of the car, whatever you're working on, right into the bell housing. These are perfect. I'm using a long snap-on extension and I can use that to get into this area. These sockets right here, I have another extension. It's 1/2 inch all the way. It's a 3-foot extension with a 3/8 on the end of it. These are the best sockets if you're doing a motor and transmission. You don't have to get these exact ones. You can get this. I like these ones because they're low profile. Other companies make them. They have little spring here and stuff like that. They tend to come apart. But right now, these guys, seriously, these are awesome. They will help you so much. Great flexibility, getting a lot of tight areas. A lot of times you're working like this. All right, guys, we're down and dirty. We're under the truck. All we got to do, bring that motor back and we should be good. We're in the pressure plates. That means we're pretty damn close. The dowel's got to be lined up. Same thing on the other side, and this thing will go right in. All right, guys. Motor and trans are connected. Bell housing bolts are in. Everything's happy, lined up. Now we're going to jack this up. We're going to hope that these motor mounts actually work. I have no idea if it's going to work. I really hope it does because I kind of wanted to get this at least bolted together today. I don't know. Looks pretty close. But I think it's gonna work. Let's get the other side on. I feel like all I've been doing lately is engine swaps. And if that comes down a tiny bit, this side will line right up. Drop it down a tiny bit. All right, that's a good sign, guys. Looks like these motor mounts will work for one side. Look at that. That is unusual. Oh, there we go. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap this one up. Everything fit pretty well. I put my power steering pump on. Still gonna have to transfer over the lines and everything. This is a power steering pump for hydro boost, so it's got 3 lines on it, just like the factory one from 1987. So all that stuff is gonna stay intact. But the next thing we're gonna have to do is figure out a spot to mount the oil filter relocation. And then also, we're gonna have to figure out some exhaust manifolds or headers, whatever you guys suggest. It does get close down there with the hydraulic clutch setup, but it's still a lot easier than running a mechanical clutch setup. Up front, we got tons of room. We got tons of height. We could probably run a Holley high ram on this thing if we really wanted to. This is the factory Cat Eye Silverado cold air intake that I had running on the S10. Fits perfect. So that's what we're gonna utilize there. And then the PCM, I really don't know where that's gonna go yet. Might mount it on the firewall, might mount it over here close to the battery. Got my fuse box and everything. Same thing over here. We'll have to figure out headers, whatever's gonna work, whatever's gonna fit. Also, the connectors on the end of the harness aren't gonna work with my fuel injectors, so I'm gonna have to get adapters for that. That's pretty much it, guys. This one's pretty simple. Our coolant lines are gonna come right down here. Thermostat housing, that's gonna connect right to the lower radiator hose. Upper radiator hose, same thing. I'm gonna run the factory GM truck hose. That'll come right around here, sit up there, perfect. That's pretty much it. This is all factory parts that I'm using for the most part, and everything fit like a dream. So if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, drop that below. Thing's probably going to be sitting for a little bit because we're going to get some snow. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stuff some rags in those exhaust ports, tape that up. We're going to let this thing sit for a few days. We've been swapping motors in and out of my projects, and we are so close to having all of my projects up, running, and driving. If you guys have multiple project cars, you guys know how big of a deal that actually is, because taking on all these projects at once, it does get stressful. You have to plan your time accordingly. You have to plan budgets accordingly for different stuff. It's a lot to take on. For one guy, it's definitely a lot, but we're making progress. We're getting it done. I hope this video was informative. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to drop a comment. Ask me anything. I'll answer it to the best of my knowledge. But as usual, guys, thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you to each and every one of you for liking, commenting, sharing all the videos. On that note, guys, I will catch you on the next one.